For the purpose of the story, names and room numbers will be changed. I'm a small 18-year-old girl, and I feel like that adds to the fear factor of this story. This happened on a Saturday night, literally last week. My friend Lee and I attended a football game. We got bored and decided to head to a haunted house with our friends Terry, Dawson, and Emma. It was a haunted corn maze, and we had a blast. Eventually, the night started to wind down, and me, Lee, and Terry decided to go back to Terry's dorm so we can hang out. We had dyed Lee's hair, and we're currently watching a movie when there were 3 loud slams on the door. Terry's roommate went to answer the door. We heard someone grunt, and then saw a man, who none of us knew, walk past Terry's door and into the bathroom. We were all so confused, and we poked our heads out the door to see Terry's roommate on the floor. The man had pushed him to the ground just to enter the common area of the room. All of us agreed that we didn't know the man. We started laughing and making jokes about the situation, because that's how we coped with it at the time. Terry's roommate went to tell the front desk that somebody had come into our room and started taking a shower. Again, it was a Saturday night, so we just assumed the man was drunk or something and was in the wrong room. Eventually though, we started to hear rustling in the bathroom and loud scratches and bangs coming from the door. We started to get scared, so we locked ourselves in Terry's room. Eventually, we heard the bathroom door open and we all turned towards the locked door. We all jumped as this man began to bang on the door with his fists. He was breathing so heavily that we could hear it from the other side of the door. Lee and I screamed as the banging proceeded to get louder and louder as he began to throw his full weight into the door. Terry was in the back corner of their room as he was starting to spiral into a panic attack. "Holy crap, what's happening?" Lee questioned all of us. We had no clue. At first, we thought it was just a drunk guy, but no guy who's hammered out his mind has enough coordination to take a running start into a door. Finally, the banging stopped. We all thought the man had left, but we didn't dare leave the room. It was silent for about 3 minutes, and then the scratching started. This man was scraping his fingernails down the freaking door like a dog, trying to be let into a house. "Let me in," he whispered. "Let me in. Please. Please let me in. I know you're in there. Let me in, damn it." He began to yell and bang on the door again. How was no one else on this dorm floor hallway coming to help us? Fear was crawling up my body. I didn't know what to do. I have a stress disorder that I have to take medication for. This is not the situation for me to be in. I slid down the wall and sat on the floor with my head in my hands, trying to calm myself down. It had been almost 10 minutes since Terry's roommate went to get campus security. We finally called the front desk of the dorm. Apparently, they had already called security the minute the roommate got down there. How was it taking them this long to get here? The man continued to throw himself into the door for another 10 minutes. We thought the door was going to break because how much he was slamming into it. But finally, after 25 minutes, campus security arrived. They sat the man down and started to have a conversation with him instead of taking him out of the freaking dorm room. At this point, I was pissed. What if we're in a place where we couldn't lock a door, like outside? Would they still have taken 25 minutes to show up? The man tells them he hasn't been drinking and that he hasn't smoked anything and he's fine. They continue to question him, and with each question, he begins to get more violent. They finally were able to escort the man out, but not before he scuffs with one of the cops. Campus security knocked on our door, telling us that it was safe to come out. When we opened the door, something hit the floor. The cop's eyes widened as he realized what it was. It was a pocket knife that had been lodged into the door. Not only did these people take 25 minutes to show up, they also didn't check the man or the surrounding area to see if there was a weapon. Lee started to cry as we left the room. The security decided to check the rest of the dorm, and they found a crumpled up ball of tinfoil with what they concluded to be heroin in it. Yeah, this dude was methed out of his mind with a pocket knife, and all they could say was have a safe night before leaving the dorm room. We were all complaining to campus next week about how the situation was handled, mainly because I know this man is still on campus. I saw him walking down the road yesterday, just like nothing had happened. Me and my friends had this bright idea to get messed up on a Wednesday, so we got some smokes and some drinks. There's a railway near our dorm, and it's the place to go smoke and drink. It was really cold, so 2 of my friends had already started drinking to warm themselves up. Just on the way there, I was having a really weird feeling like we shouldn't be there. I disregarded the feeling of just me smoking for the first time. We eventually got there, sat on the rocks that were there, and we started to drink and passing the joint around. After 10-ish minutes, I heard a twig snap. I asked my friend, but none of them heard it. My one friend, who was the closest to me, said you probably imagined it. When you get high, you get hella paranoid. I accepted it because I've heard it's normal. After a couple more minutes, I heard some shuffling in the bushes. Think of a small trail path, and there being a circular area with big rocks and the rest of it being bushes and trees. If you look at it from a bird's eye view, it would look like a tree. This time, me and two of my friends heard it, and we looked at each other. One of my friends looked at the other four, who were still talking, and said, "Did y'all hear that?" Our oldest friend said, "Really? You too now?" There's nothing there. The minute he said that, we heard a whisper say, "Are you sure?" in a raspy voice. It sounded how a woman who has been smoking for years and just woke up would sound. The way the voice sounded also made it impossible for someone to impersonate the voice, so we all know it wasn't a college student. We were all frozen. Then we heard the same voice laugh. It wasn't a laugh that would be made from someone laughing at something funny, but it sounded sinister. Then we heard the bushes shuffle again, so we all booked it back to our dorms. I don't think any of us have ever ran so fast. Normally, it would be a 5-minute walk, but we turned it into a 1-minute run. I really wish I could say that this was it, but it wasn't. I always liked living off campus, but this was the one time where I really wished I did live on campus. At about 2 a.m., I had to go back to my place, so I got my stuff and started walking back. The bus was down that day, so I couldn't take it, and I had to walk 25 minutes to get to my place. The minute I had left my friend's dorm, I had a bad feeling. I told myself it's fine, you're just being paranoid, plus someone had to have been playing a prank. After 5 minutes, I had a feeling that I was being followed. I looked behind me and didn't see anyone. I looked back every 30 seconds, and each time there wasn't anything there. When there was 5 minutes left, I heard the same shuffling in the bushes, and I froze and stared exactly where I'd heard it. I stood there for at least a minute. The only reason I actually started moving was because I heard the same laugh. I ran as fast as I could and made it to my apartment's main office in less than a minute. There was always a cop in front of the office, and when he saw me, he looked really concerned and asked me what had happened. I didn't want to tell him, but what choice did I have? I told him I heard some weird laughing in the bushes, and it scared the hell out of me. He asked me where, and when I told him, he nodded and said, "You too, huh?" I asked him what he meant, and he said the 3 other people had told him about it, and no one could figure out what it was. He told me that I should start taking the bus and come back to my place earlier. I said, "Yeah, I will," and walked off. Again, I wish I could tell you that this is where it ended, but it didn't. When I got back, I took a shower and got in bed and tried to sleep. I fell asleep and later woke up confused and tired. I didn't know why I had woken up, considering how tired I was. I checked the time and it said 4:36 a.m. This was even weirder because that meant I only slept 45 minutes. That's when I heard the same laughing again. I laid up and looked around, and when I looked straight, I saw the shadow of something. It didn't look human, but it didn't look like an animal either. It was on all fours, and what it said scared me to the point where I stopped sleeping in my apartment and pretty much moved into my friend's dorm. It said in that same voice, "I know you're in there," and said my name, and "I know you're up," and it laughed. That entire night, I just laid down trying not to cry from fear. I didn't really have to worry about it for much longer because it was a week before finals week and I had gotten accepted to another school that I wanted to go to. I don't really ever tell this story because from the people I've told, they've either thought I was joking or I wasn't fully sober. I know exactly what I heard that night, and I know I wasn't hearing things. For some context, I'm a 19-year-old college student, and earlier this past year, I decided to create a Grindr profile because why not? I'm single and I may as well be a dumb college student while I'm a dumb college student. My friends and I were studying late one night in their dorm room like always. All of my close friends lived together in the dorm, so their lounge was the primary hangout spot. It was a little after midnight and I went on Grindr. At this point, I had been on the app for about 2 months and had gone on a fair amount of dates by this point. When I opened the app, I received a message from a guy. I don't remember his name, so I'll just continue to refer to him as the guy. I clicked on his profile, and it was a pretty cute guy. He had a shirtless picture, and he was attractive enough for me to want to get more information on him. His caption read, "In town for work." I read his bio, and he explained that he was in town for work, and that he was staying at a nearby hotel and was able to host visitors there. I replied to his message and began the typical Grindr talk. "How are you? What are you into? And can you host?" After talking for about half an hour or so and exchanging pictures, we agreed to meet. I must say that I did not get any indication that this guy was a catfish, or I was talking to somebody who wasn't really who they said they were, or that's what I told myself at least. Whenever I decided to meet up with a guy, I would tell one of my friends and then send them my location. I do this and then head out. The hotel was about a 10-minute drive away from my university. As I was driving there, the guy messaged me and asked, "Hey, so my business partner might be back soon. Would it be cool if we did stuff in your car?" Not an unusual request to engage in car play, but I did start to get a bit suspicious. Why would his business partner be out this late? Yet again, here I was, out this late, so I brushed it off and continued making my way to the hotel. I arrived at the hotel, and I would say it was about 1 a.m. at this point. I looked at my phone again, and I had received another message from the guy. He said, "Pull around to the back of the hotel." I drove into the parking lot and made my way to the back of the hotel and past the pool. This is when things started to get weird. As I pulled into the back of this hotel parking lot, I noticed a guy in a red hoodie in between some cars. Assuming it was the guy I had been messaging, I pulled into one of the spots underneath the light post, about 20 feet in front of a dumpster that sat in the corner of the parking lot. By this point, the guy in the red hoodie had gone out of sight. I instinctively clicked on the button to lock my doors. I checked the app and received another message from the guy that said, "Pull back next to the dumpster." I assumed that since I was underneath the light, he was worried that we'd be caught if a guest or hotel staff saw us. At this point, I started to get a bit sketched out, but I figured that maybe my anxiety was just getting the best of me. I put my car into reverse and pulled back next to the dumpster and put my car into park. At this point, I'm scanning the parking lot for this guy and don't see anyone. No sight of the guy in the red hoodie either. I feel my heart rate suddenly increase and I began getting cold sweats. Maybe I shouldn't have driven out here, I remember thinking to myself. Then, I checked the app again and I received another message from the guy. "Turn your car off and get in the back seat." That was more than enough. It was at that point that when my flight or fight responses kicked in, because without thinking, I immediately turned my car on and hauled out of there. I sped out of the parking lot as fast as my poor old 4 car could go. I didn't even stop to check for oncoming traffic. When I pulled out of the parking lot and onto the main road, I drove about 2 miles up the road away from the hotel and pulled into a McDonald's parking lot. At this point, I'm trembling, but I'm thinking maybe I just overreacted. I checked the app again to see if the guy messaged me anything. I was expecting a "what the F" or "where did you go?" and the messages from the guy were gone. I'm assuming he blocked me, which leads me to believe that whatever he had planned was not good at all. Was he trying to jump me, steal my car, or maybe something worse?